Got it recorded. Got it live streamed. Now I just need to post it to my page. Shay said they were. All right, here we go. There we go. Share. I want to share it to just my page. All right, let's do this. Welcome back for another what is it?
Episode. All that
of Where's George. We've been consistently back at it. You know, things have looked a little different over the last couple weeks or months, but getting back into the swing of things. So again, I'm Eugene.
And I'm George. And this is
talk jobs.
Huh?
I said we're gonna talk about jobs.
I don't think we're gonna talk about jobs. We're gonna talk about people coming in and opening businesses, right? Maybe a little bit more than that.
People taking or creating their own jobs, creating their own businesses, and taking a lane from Black people. So we're going to talk specifically about Blacks. So we can talk about other races, but we're going to talk about how that looks for Black people. And we can't blame anybody else but ourselves. So
you're right about that. So but I think there is a cultural difference.
Okay.
With American Black people opposed to other difference.
Okay.
What was that? Am I hearing myself?
No, that was me. I clicked into it. My bad.
No. Other races and cultures that have migrated here under their own will. Let's say it like that. Maybe that's the best way of saying it.
Can you still hear me or hear?
I can hear what we've, are you listening also?
I was trying to cut it off so I didn't hear it, but clearly it's not gonna work. All right.
Anyway. Well, put whatever that is on mute.
I thought it was, but it was still like playing back. I don't know what the hell going on. Oh well, it's off now. My bad. Didn't mean to cut you up.
Good. All right, let's see here. Deshaun's asking, are we working out tomorrow? I guess we are.
Yeah, y'all can get up at 6 a.m. and go. Y'all going to the one in Austell?
Y'all, you were the one that started asking about it.
When y'all start talking about 6 a.m., you notice I got quiet. I'm gonna pull an Anthony. Damn,
Lord.
Oh man.
So yeah. So we'll see you at 6 o'clock in the morning. All right, now we can talk about other things. Oh, Kristin. Let's see. Who is anything out there? Okay. All right. So cool. So today we're going to talk about different cultures. I guess that would be. I guess we would exclude. I don't know. Will we exclude the white man on this?
I think for the purpose of this conversation, we probably should. Because okay. I think there's enough to unpack between the other cultures and Black folks that I think we don't have to blame the man this time. So.
Oh well, we're still gonna blame them, I'm sure. However, I think that once we get into it, I think we will find that there is a disconnect, right? And I think we've discussed it a little bit, maybe in previous episodes, but I'm glad we're going to focus on it today. Yeah. So, why don't you? Do you feel comfortable starting off, just kind of giving your perspective on, what you see in the world in your daily trip in your city?
So let me preface everything I'm about to say is I will use generalized names and tones and connotations and cultural appropriations. It is in no way, shape, or form meant to attempt to be racist or elitist or whatever word you can say that ends with ist. It is just you call it satire, if you will. If you're truly listening and engaging with us for context, it'll make sense. All right. So just so everybody knows,
that's nothing that Eugene says is representative of what George says.
These are the words that come out of my mouth are not a reflection of George's opinions.
That's right.
Thoughts. He can say he's a grown man. He can speak for himself. So I guess we'll leave it at that.
You can only cancel half of us at this point.
Well, technically, I mean, I'm a quarter white, so I mean, I don't know which part of me you can cancel because only 3/4 of me can actually or can't be racist. So. Oh man. So I say all that to say is the reason or why we're here. What we're talking about today is the ability of other racial groups, cultural groups. So you've got your Jewish and you've got your Indians and you got and I'm generalizing here, Indians and your even your Africans, and then a lot of your kind of Middle Eastern cultures and Indians or India, not Native Americans. And I say that so what we see is their entrepreneurial spirit in a way that benefits the entire family group opposed to individuals. And when I say that is, so Black people by nature are very entrepreneurial, right? We are the masters and the creators of taking nothing and creating something. Perfect example. So I seen something the other day how shrimp and grits were came about. And you know, the grits were like the leftover parts or whatever that they couldn't figure out with any type of shellfish, lobsters, shrimp, all of that stuff was always like thought of as bottom feeder food and scraps and whatnot. And so they took trash, and now you go in any restaurant, they're charging you $15-$20 a bowl for it, right? You know, something that's a delicacy now, a Southern delicacy. So I say that to say that Black people by nature are very entrepreneurial. Black people by nature are very creative. Black people by nature have a desire to want to be able to be creative and to be in a space where we can create and to do our own thing. What I think we've lost in our roots coming over from Africa is we've lost our sense of family. We've lost our sense of community in a sense. And so I think the 300 years of slavery and segregation has caused us to lose a sense of community and act more individualistic. And so you look at how other racial groups come to America. So let's take Indians, right? So what they do is they've learned the system. So they'll come, you've got one anchor Indian that will come over here and they'll pull their money over from India. They'll come over here and they'll start a gas station. Gas stations aren't cash cows. You aren't gonna make you millionaires unless you own 10,000 of them. But at the end of the day, what they allow for one, steady income, and two, your biggest expense in a gas station is your labor costs. So how can you circumvent your labor costs? Hire your family members. Have your family members, and you all take advantage of the laws that come along with visas and green cards and all that other stuff, and say, hey, you know what? Habib is going to come over here, start this gas station. He's going to bring Habib Jr. and the other 3 Habibs, and they're all going to come over and work for 2 years. Those 4 Habibs have gained citizenship in our country. They take that, they go out and buy, they've saved their money and do whatever, and they go out and buy 3 more gas stations with the other Habibs, and then they bring over their family, right? So everyone, they use this as an opportunity to start a business and bring their families over to run those businesses, and then use that family to start more businesses to bring what? To bring more people over, right? Now, can you imagine a space where Black people could do the same thing, right? We can go start a gas station, but we can't go hire Leroy, and we can't go hire Jerome, and we can't go hire John, because why? Leroy, John, Jamar, or Jerome are gonna want, $27 an hour. They're gonna want vacations every other week. They're probably gonna be late, and these are really bad stereotypes. I'm sorry, but think about it. Look past the stereotype, but think about it, right? They always say never hire your family members, right? Never do business with family, because why? Because people are going to take advantage of it. The Indians don't think that way. Your other cultures, Jewish people, when they come over here, they do the same exact thing. And I say come over here, I'm talking about the ones from Israel, not like they got to migrate, like it's just so y'all know. But they do the same exact thing because they have a sense of community, and they come over here, and it's not let me try to do better than you. It's how do we come up together? Because at the end of the day, we got to run this gas station, and we got to make this money, and we can't afford to go and paying somebody else to come and do it. I got 37,000 cousins over here. Somebody gonna come over here and help run this gas station, and we're gonna use it to funnel this money in and out of the community, right? And so then what do they do once they make that money? They only shop at Indian-owned stores that as much as they can. They're going to shop, they're going to spend their money within their community. We talked about this a long time ago, how long the dollar stays in a certain community. Black people, Jewish people, and other racial groups is days and weeks. Black people is minutes, you know. And so if you notice, a lot of these gas stations, and even with the Chinese, and like they'll come and put you a Chinese restaurant, they'll put a chicken wing restaurant in the middle of the hood. In the middle of the hood. Why do you think they want? Why can't Black people do that? Why can't we go and put our own stuff in our own neighborhoods and profiteer off our own people and reinvest back into our communities? Because all they're doing is taking that money out, sending it back to China, sending it back to India, or spending it back in their own communities. They're taking that. They may have their restaurant, over in Fayetteville, but they live in Gwinnett. You know, they take they'll take that money, buy them a big old 10-bedroom house, and all of them live in one house. But you know what? We're not going to do that. Why? Oh, because I got to have my own space, or her space is bigger than my space, or his space is bigger than my space. Um, and it's just that I think that's where we've lost it. Because if you look at the tribes over in Africa, in the very general, and I'm talking about not in this, and it's probably even in a lot of more civilized parts of Africa as well. They still have that sense of community and taking care of those around them and being that communal. That's the piece that we've lost, and I think that's the anchor that holds us back. Because I think what brought on this conversation, we're talking about the LGBTQ community and how they've been able to advance their agenda significantly further in the last 20 years than what we have been in the last, say 60 years. I seen this thing today. It was just 60 years ago. This person had a letter from Princeton saying they couldn't come into the school because they were Black. This was 60 years ago. This is not that long ago, that we were still being, discriminated against based off of our race. And so we can't say, well, racism is that far too far in the past. No, it still happens. It's 2021 in Georgia, and we still have active Klan. We still have sundown towns here in Georgia. So it's a very real thing. But I think that's what holds us back. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, no, I agree to a point for most of the things that you're saying, and I don't endorse Dr. Umar all the time, but I think he put it best when he was addressing this, where Black people are the only race, culture, whatever people who will go and buy things to impress other people that they don't know. Right. So you don't see, I mean, and I'm sure and once again, these are generalizations. I'm sure that this happens as well, but you don't see a white guy going by the Hellcat because he saw his neighbor buy the regular Charger. Yeah. Right. And typically they just can care less. I mean, most of my coworkers are Caucasian, and whenever they go out and buy a car, you know what they look for? Reliability. They will do research to a T, this, that, and the other, and what we will do. Oh Lord, Eugene's going to sleep. But what do? We go out and find the thing that is, the nicest looking. I mean, we go and supplement this thing, and everyone who knows me understands my disdain for vehicles in general. I love cars, but I think they're liabilities, not assets. And then we go and add more things to it, like sound systems, things along those lines, which only furthers the liability that is, because then you can't resell it to certain people or to dealerships and things along those lines. And so, yeah, I agree with, I agree with what American Blacks, and I'm going to say that again because I agree with you when you say African and people who have not had at least kind of that, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, but like Black slavery or civil rights-esque oppression throughout their family. Yeah. And I say it like that because I think the way that we think today has been handed down from generation to generation to a point, right? And so, I may challenge a little bit of what you were saying about Black people being entrepreneurial, opposed to, and probably say that we're more innovative than anything, right? And so I think we drive culture. I think we find things and we improve upon it. I don't think there's a race of people who do it better, in my opinion. If you don't know, rock and roll, what you listen to today was started by Chuck Berry. That's it. Chuck Berry started the rock and roll that you listen to today. If you listen to rock and roll beforehand, it's not what you're seeing and what you're listening to today. Shrimp and lobster probably wasn't looked upon as a delicacy. And now, you go and spend $50, $60 a plate for it at different places, right? Yeah. Ribs and brisket. Well, I don't know if brisket necessarily was one, but I know ribs was not considered a delicacy or a cut of meat. And look at what it sells for today in comparison to other cuts of meat at this time, And so I think we are in a place where we need to reevaluate, our goals and our ambitions just as a culture. Because you're right. If we as a whole were to swallow our pride, live with Ma a little bit longer, maybe even find those relatives who are about their business and really collectively put our money together and buy businesses, invest in one another, all these things would be, I think we would see a big change. But it's hard to do that, right? Because you don't see it from those who you would consider to be leaders, right? So I don't know much about Oprah's business dealings, but we know people like Michael Jordan. We know Puff Daddy. We know Dr. Dre. All these people who are close and nearing to that $1 billion mark, right? The Jay-Z's. He happened to buy into, or not, I'm not going to say buy into. He married into a really great financial situation with his wife, who probably makes just as much, if not more, than he does. In their music career. I'm not sure about her business dealings outside of that. but you're seeing all these people and they're providing individual success, to your point again, right? Where, what was it? A couple of years ago, the Charlotte Bobcats were up for sale, and there were some other basketball teams that were up for sale. And, that would have been a great opportunity for a board of directors type situation to come about with some of our highest earning African Americans to go and buy the team, whatever team that was, and show that, hey, we can put our money together, we can make money together, and we can start something new, right? But it didn't happen. I'm assuming it didn't happen. I'm not sure who bought the Nets. I think that was who it was.
So Jay-Z had a stake in it.
But who are the other people? That's the question.
Through a holding company. But see, I think that's the piece that we're missing is a lot of our top people, right? A lot of our top athletes, a lot of our top entertainers with this money, they're billionaire status, right? But they don't have cash. It's all asset based. And so when it comes to buying the Bobcats or buying the Nets or buying the Pelicans or buying the Clippers, cash is king, right? Dude that bought the Clippers came, I got 1.2 or 1.7 billion dollars in cash. I'm gonna buy the Clippers. That's something that Magic Johnson and all those people that tried to pull their stuff together, they didn't have it. And so, that's the other part of things is how do we navigate as Black people to being, not to say we shouldn't be asset based, because we should, right? We should have our assets in those things, but what are we seeing that's, I guess what is my question I want to ask here? How are we measuring why these people are successful? And I say that because we see them buying things, right? They're riding in these fancy cars. I just seen a video of Khaled and Diddy going back over which one's better, the Maybach or the Rolls Royce or the Phantom, right? And they're buying things, and so we look at these people and, oh man, they are rich, they've got money. But if you had to ask them, go to the bank now, give me $1 million, can they do it? And those two probably can, but we're looking at, so when you're trying to buy these things, and what does that look like? Do they have the leverage to go to a bank to get the money to buy something like that? What are they doing that doesn't allow them to be a collective unit to do stuff like that? I guess that's the biggest issue. All these other groups can do it, all these other people can do it. When what was that the Dolphins, no, the Marlins, that Jeter and J-Lo bought?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think they bought the Marlins, right? But they had their close knit group of friends was able to put up the cash in order to get a loan, I guess, for the remainder of it, right? But their group of confidants had that ability. You're trying to tell me that we don't have enough Black people in America that have the assets or the collateral or cash to buy a sports team, like, together? Like, what is that about? Like, but I see Quavo, on Instagram, right, just buying up shit, buying people, Rolls Royces and things like that. Like, it's just, what are we doing different that other groups aren't? Maybe that's the bigger question. Why are we different?
Well, I think what we view as valuable is the issue, right? I see that. I see, you being able to start something, you being the first at something as being something valuable, right? Yeah. I don't see a Maybach being valuable. I don't see, a chain being valuable. I don't see, 100 pairs of J's being valuable. I understand that there is a value to it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, and maybe it's my old age, I don't know. you know, it just isn't attractive to me, and I don't have any desire to go after things like that. But I don't feel like that's a um, a common position for many of our young people.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the really quick gain, right? It's not the long term success; it's about the quick gain. And so that's why you have so many people who, you know, are wanting to get into the music industry, even though they may not be musically talented enough to do it. You know, but you'll get the short term fame. You'll book a couple of shows. You'll make a couple of dollars, things along those lines, right? Uh, and if you're lucky, you'll get with a good company that won't completely screw you out of your money, and give you a decent deal where you do have some money in your pocket and it's not all fronted money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same thing with, in my opinion, selling drugs. You know, it's a quick game. You're going to make more money, yes, at 15 selling whatever than you will going to McDonald's and learning or gaining experience through that. Which I think is another really interesting thing when it comes to my point about Black people being innovative. Um, if you've ever talked to someone who is really deep into the drug game, I mean, it's amazing, like the level of intelligence that these people have, these guys have, and it's just like, man, if you just put your mind towards, you know, X, Y, and Z, and so I will say there are some people that I know who are hustling at one point in time, and they translated into legit businesses, but there's just not enough, in my opinion, right? Yeah. But I mean, once again, if we took those skills and we took those ideas and we put them towards something that was more productive, or at least in my opinion, as productive. So people can say that it is productive in some other aspects, but you know, where would we be today? I think we would have more of those shops on the corner. You know, we shouldn't.
What do we want?
Huh?
What do we though? I mean, so to your point, if we're so focused on the right now, getting rich now, that's the overarching feel of Black America. We want it now. Mm-hmm. If we took that innovation and applied it to entrepreneurial, would we still be in the position we're in now? I mean, would we have those shops on the corner if it meant that I wouldn't make six figures this year? I'd make 50,000, but everybody in my house is making 50,000, or everybody in my family unit is making 50, or not 50.
I mean, once again, it's got to be. We have to change. We have to change our value, what we view as valuable.
Yeah.
You know, no, you're not going to be able to. No, you're not going to be able to buy that brand new whatever car today, but maybe in 5 years you will be, and you'll have long-term money, and you will maybe have a staff of people, and you'll have income that you'll have other people working for you to make, you know, but once again, it's not what I can do now, right? Yeah. It's not that short game. And I think that's the problem. It doesn't make sense for, people in the Asian community to be in the middle of Black neighborhoods selling Black women Black hair, weaves and wigs. I mean, it does not make an ounce of sense. Are you going to tell me that there's no Black person that is entrepreneurial enough to go in and say, hey, I'm going to do this myself? They got, just up the street from my house, even. Yeah. there's a place that is run by Asian people who, and I'm talking about, more your Japanese, Chinese, Korean style folks who don't have our hair texture, but they're selling the weaves that we put in our hair. They're selling the weaves that we put in our hair. They're selling the hair care products that we put in our hair. They're selling dyes and all different things. And you can't even go in there and ask them what would be good for my particular texture of hair, because they wouldn't know. Really, when it comes down to it, they'll give you something that, they're like a like the bad doctors, right? Where it's like, oh man, I'm coming in and I'm really sick. I think I have a cold. And the next thing the doctor says, oh yeah, I think you have a cold. Yeah. You know, and it frustrates me to no end that is, you know, that's the thing, you know. So I think, yes, if we focus more on the long term opposed to the short, I think, yeah, we would have more businesses. We would make those decisions to open up, you know, car lots. We would make those decisions to, you know, start restaurants that aren't just, you know, little shacks and things along those lines. And we would be able to hire, you know, family members and relatives, because we would all have that same mindset, right? But at this point in time, we're just not, as a culture, as a society, we're just not in that place where we're still wanting to be able to stunt on the next man, you know, go out, spend $200 at the club, you know, opposed to investing that $200 in a business or in, you know, someone else's, you know. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. We have to change our, what we view as valuable, in my opinion, in order to get to that place.
No, and that's I think, if we look at it, then that's, if we dissect what's the difference between us and Asians and Indians and other cultural groups, is that desire for immediate gratification. I think the other groups are willing to, they know their home life and what that looks like, and you know what it's like to be in a situation or a system where you are perpetually kept down, and the income gap is probably worse than what it is here. And so they are willing and understand what it needs, what it truly takes as a community to, or to be a village, right? And so, you know, just like, you know, Shay's mother brought up that, you know, the reason why for the hair shops is because of the supply chain, right? So then if we have Black people who are innovative, and we've got Black people who are entrepreneurs, why can't we figure it out, right? So you've got people like me, there's Black people, I've got an MBA in global supply chain. I can figure that shit out for you, right? Or you've got Black people who can, how do we develop something, a product or some type of synthetic weave or real weave or horsehair, whatever the hell you got to do it, and create it here that we can sell to our people. But with that being said, Black folks, we have to support the people who do that and step out there. And so we can't simply look at a price point and say, I can't support you because you're going to be higher than everybody else. So there's a twofold factor there, right? So one, as a Black-owned manufacturer or a Black-owned business, I need to know my market and be able to produce a product at a price point that is comparable to my competitors. If I can't be comparable in price, I damn sure need to beat them on other parts of the business. Either I need to have a higher quality or my service has to be there. There's a matrix in business that's quality, productivity, or quality, service, and price. And you can't have all three at the same time. So you got to pick two. So you're going to have a higher quality at a lower price, but it's going to be slow, and vice versa, right? And so I say that to say, is one, us as Black entrepreneurs have to know our business and have to know our competitors and have to know how to price things efficiently. The other part is, as Black supporters, we've got to understand that there's a different barrier to entry for Black owned products. So True is a Black owned detergent company, right?
There's Black tax on it. There's a Black tax on most things.
And we have to be willing to pay that, right? Are we willing? And that's the problem. We can't compare Black-owned or core oral toothbrushes to Colgate. They can't manufacture at that level, right? At least not now. They don't have the economies of scale. They can't sell to Walmart at the level that they want to include that in their stores, right? And so we have to be able to be willing to say, I will pay that extra dollar for a Black owned toothbrush because I know that that dollar is going towards my community and is going to be a better long-term serve, right? We've got to be able to do that. But that's where we fail because we don't understand those two concepts. And then we've got to have big retailers like Target who make a conscious effort to buy Black owned products, right? So they know they can't squeeze the Black owned manufacturer for a certain price point. So hey, how do we make ourselves more socially conscious and put their products in our stores so it gives the Black person one to say, okay, well, I feel better now buying it at Amazon or buying it on Target because all right, I can buy it from them thinking I'm a whatever, right? And then with that, and I say this with all in the love in the world, is Black people is when you do become entrepreneurial and you start your business, you start your lawn care company, you start your fence building company, you start your restaurant, you cannot sacrifice on service because I look like you. Okay. When I walk into your restaurant, you don't say what up, my nigga. You don't say what's good, my guy. I don't know you. Okay. This is a strictly transactional relationship. If I walked into Betty Sue's bakery and she said, what up, my nigga, we're gonna have a problem, right? So just because I look like you and I walk into your bakery, we can't do that. And so you need to be Black people, we have to be professional at all levels of the business. Okay. We can't be showing up 7 hours late to an appointment, without some reasonable calls or email or text or something. We can't half-ass do jobs. We can't, and I think that's
is using real life examples. It's just want everyone to know
he's a little hurt. What was this 2018, 2009? Like I made a conscious effort to spend money in the Black community and to spend I don't want to say a shit ton, but to get everything I needed to do to my house to be a Black owned vendor. And I mean, my plight. Like I don't need to go through it all, but I couldn't get callbacks. I couldn't get people to show up on time. I couldn't get people to do the work right. But it was always when I called Jose was there. Jose couldn't talk to me really. Like we had to figure out things and go through, Google Translate to figure out what I want done. But you know what? Jose had all his cousins there the next morning and they had everything dug out. They had everything poured. They had that shit done by noon, right? On to the next job the next day, right? And it was at a good price point. It was a fair price point, but they did it right. And that's the part that Black people are, we're missing that service piece. It's like, I love us. I love the innovation of us. And I love the entrepreneurship of us, but like, damn, like we can't figure out service to save our life. It's like, we just think that, hey, I'm Black, so support me. Right. And that's not how that works. You can think of, well, I go walk into the little Arab store and to the gas station and they're just rude as hell. But okay, what other options do you have, right? That's all you have in the hood is these little Arab corner stores. When it comes to service industry, restaurants, plumbing, electrical, whatever, if you don't treat me right, then I can go to somebody else. I have options. I can call in for somebody else. And so, I didn't got my blood pressure all up because I'm just thinking about all the money I didn't spend and been mad as hell at folks. But I think that's we got to get out of one. I need it now. We got to get out of that. I think that's the part that decides us. And then once we get out of that mentality, we got to be able to. That's where partnering and having the skills inside the community, the business ventures. You people like Brandon, right? Who know this industry and what he does really well, and being able to partner with those who look like us that can help us and guide us and ask for help instead of trying to figure it out. what's her name? Patty Pie. What's
Oh,
Patty
Patty
LaBelle,
LaBelle.
right? She could probably make a mean sweet potato pie, but it took somebody with a business sense to be able to, how do we capitalize on this? Because now everybody, I'm sure there's people out there who can make a better patty pie than Patty, right?
Absolutely.
A significantly better patty pie than Patty.
Petty
But
Patty.
you know what I'm trying to say. But at the end of the day, they can't scale. They don't have the resources in terms of intellectual resources around them to be able to scale that, to be able to put that out there and to be able to compete. But she did. She was able to do that. So now what? Everybody goes and buys patty pies, right? I mean, they put them all out there. Everybody. I don't even like sweet potato pie, but I go buy them and I go pass them off as my own, and people won't know the difference. But but I say that to say is we gotta be able to understand the need of intellectual resources. And you can be innovative, you can be entrepreneurial, but if you don't know how to run a business, get fucking help.
But I think that's the point, right? Like we don't come together and we don't make a conscious effort to come together.
Yeah.
To make it work. Because typically somebody within the circle of people are going to be upset with their cut because it's not that instant. Why does such and such get more money or gets a bigger cut or has more money after the fact? Yeah. And so now I don't want to deal with him and I don't want to work with him because my cut's not going to be there, right?
Exactly.
And so I'm right there with you when you're saying, I guess the common service model is what you were bringing up with it can be, you can have it fast, you can have it good, or you can have it cheap, and you can choose 2 out of the 3, right?
Yep.
And I don't think that service should not neglect any of those. I mean, especially if you're on the cheap part, right? Yeah. If you're the cheap guy, your service most definitely needs to be good because that means your quality probably sucks. Yeah. Vice versa. If you're on the high side, I don't want to deal with someone who is not going to provide a good experience, and I'm giving you more money. I mean, it just doesn't balance out. It doesn't equal out. And so, I struggle with
people choose Target over Walmart, right? Experience. It's a different shopping experience in Target over Walmart. They're going to spend more in Target, generally.
Absolutely. Same thing with Publix and Kroger.
Yeah. It's
the completely different experience. And so, and to the point, there's value in both, right? Because people shop at both. Both companies are healthy, right? But it's long-term success that I think, once again, is a thing. And so let me pose a question to you. Should Black businesses rely solely on Black consumers?
No. They should.
And I feel like, and the reason I ask that is I feel like those companies, I feel like those companies that you're talking about that come in, that, you go in and we're talking as if we're at a cookout, right? It's like, okay, I understand that we relate on one end, but that can't be a consistent model for you to show everyone. And it's always been in my mind, it's like, yes, I want Black owned businesses. I want you to survive. I want you to thrive. But can you depend solely on Black consumers? And I just don't know that that's necessarily true, unless your community is that way. But I feel like there's still money left on the table. Yeah. At that point.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely. You cannot pigeon, and maybe that's a fourth element of what's wrong. They try to cater to the Black consumer, or not cater, but try to I guess that's who they market towards. I guess I would say.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with marketing towards Black consumers, but it needs to also be inclusive to the point where others come. You want the Hispanic population to come. I would say you even want some white people to come, because there's a lot of white mothers with black children. Yeah. You want everyone to be able to participate, right? You want to have that. You want to have that product. You want to have that service model. You want to have all those things where people want to come. Yeah. Regardless. Yes, market it to black people. Make it hey, black owned everything all over everything. But we want everyone to participate. Yeah. Because I think we have to understand that we make up 12.1, between 9 and 13% of the population. So so that means in some areas it's going to be much higher, in some areas it's going to be much lower, right? And I just don't understand. I just don't know that I guess to your point, are we making it convenient enough, and are we do we have the model where it is inclusive, even though we are keeping our uniqueness? Yeah. I don't know.
But you have to, that's where service comes to play, right? In any business, if you, like I said, you can't be a black owned business and rely solely on the black dollar. No other business does that. White owned, Jewish owned, Indian owned, Chinese owned, they all are dependent on a dollar from every community. But their level of service, generally speaking, I'm saying generally speaking, it's consistent amongst all racial groups, right? And so I think that we already know that as Black people, we have to be superior in order to be seen as equal in the workplace and athletics, in different aspects of life. We've got a bar that we've got to exceed to just be seen as equal. And so I think that's where Black people miss the mark when it turns in terms of gathering new business from Black people, but from other races, is that service component. How do most people who write reviews are going to write reviews if it's negative, right? They had a bad experience over a good one. And so, generally, if I go look at a company, I look at their reviews and they got a bunch of good reviews. They may have like mediocre stores or stars, but if I look at the people who actually write comments and they're all fairly positive, that means they had a very good experience for them to want to go and do that, right? And so I think as Black people is that we have to provide a superior service in everything that we do. And that allows us to open our marketplace beyond just a Black owned business, beyond just having our, Leroy and Jerome come support us. We need Emily, Tyler, and Habib and Shalom and all the rest of them, right? We need everybody's money. And so, but we've got to set ourselves apart if we're going to brand ourselves as a Black owned business. Now, we can brand ourselves as just a business in general and just so happen to have a Black person that runs it. But to your point, if we're going to sticker it and we're going to label it and we're going to be Black and proud, then we got to be able to kind of put that out there and be that service leader. We've got to be that superior, go above and beyond, and be that person that they don't see us as a minority owned business. They see us as a business. They see it as a fierce competitor to, everybody else that we're working around. So I think, now that the way you put it, I can see how we are more innovative than maybe entrepreneur. And maybe there's a good mix of innovation and entrepreneur, because anybody can start a business, but not anybody can run a business. Donald Trump knows that the best. That motherfucker can start businesses like it ain't nobody's business and run that shit to the ground. He did the same thing with a country, but that's a different story. But they and so maybe that's the piece that we don't, and I can't say we've got the intellectual resources in our community, but we don't even need that, right? If there's a white consultant that can get your business up and running and moving, then fuck it, use a white guy. But we've got to be willing to invest in those intellectual resources. And maybe that's the part that we're missing, is we're not willing to invest. We're willing to invest in our idea, in our innovation. We're willing to invest in our business front, the entrepreneur, but we're not willing to invest in the business side of things. And that's the part that we're missing.
Well, and I think that goes full circle about what Miss Betty said about Chinese people being able to get Chinese supplies or from China. Well, first off, everything comes from China because it's cheap, right? But you know where else you can get cheap stuff from? You can get it cheaply from Mexico. You can get it probably cheaper in Canada. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's difficult to, I would say, as an American, it's difficult to have an American-made product that you don't go from basically, raw materials on up, and be even price competitive, because our labor is just too high when it comes to all of it, right? And so, we do have to look at things differently, and we do have, and I firmly believe you're right in, we do have those resources in our community, but do we utilize them is the question. Like even with my time in I guess corporate America, we always understand there's two sides of business when it comes to selling, right? And I'm on the sales side, so I'm actively out there looking for business to bring in profitable business that will bring on higher margins. And that's basically what we're talking about typically when we're talking about Chinese goods opposed to American-made goods, is the margin that will come from the materials that you'll get from someplace else. But I also know on the other end, there is also a costing or buyer side of every business as well that is actively looking to find ways to find either apply pressure to suppliers to lower cost, or find other suppliers that will help lower costs in order to expand those margins, right? And so what we have to do, to your point, is we have to be willing to, one, go in making lower margins than we probably would expect. Yes, there is a black tax. Once again, I'll tell you that. If you don't believe me, go and buy a black Barbie doll. It's more expensive than a white Barbie doll. Absolutely. Your hair care products are probably going to be more expensive than the white person's or everyone else's who doesn't have your texture hairs hair care products. Yes, that's probably true. But that goes back to what you were saying in your area of expertise, where scale is important, right? Being able to buy more at one particular time and being able to distribute it is important, because that's where your economies of scale come in, because now you're able to buy more, you're able to buy things at lower cost, and you have that leverage over your suppliers. Or you're going out and finding other suppliers who are willing to participate in whatever you're providing.
Yeah.
And you're building your margin that way. But once again, this goes back again in that full circle of, it's not an immediate gain. It's going to be, there's going to be tough times, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be all of these things that we in our community, I'm not sure we are willing to embrace. Are you willing to drive that Corolla for a little bit longer? Are you willing to carpool in with your people? Are you willing to live with your aunts, uncles, whoever you need to, in order to save up your money in order for you to get to that scale? And I think that's what we find the difference. Even with, I even think about, our Asian counterparts and our Middle Eastern counterparts, when you see them, you see the grandmother living in the house, taking care of the smaller children while, the adults go out to work. That's a prime example of that disconnect that we don't see and we don't understand, right? You don't see where that, when you're on your own, you're now having to incur daycare. You're having to incur all these additional costs that these other nationalities and cultures are not incurring. So once again, that's just that reverse cost grab, that reverse margin that you're basically, doing to yourself when you're going about it that way. Now, and I understand, and I know I'm about to probably push a button or two. I know that there's, we have grandparents now that are 40, 50, and they want to go out and be able to do what they want to do.
Out there, I'm still young. I still got it.
Right. And we don't want to see, and we already raised our children and everything along those lines. Yeah, I heard it. I get it. But hey, in the long term, it's all about wealth, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that Black people don't have is the wealth part. We don't have the generational wealth.
I think we're the only ones with negative overall net wealth.
Right.
Negative.
Right. Isn't that crazy? And so I'll say it again, and I'll say it over and over again. We just have to change our way of thinking, our way of looking at things. And I mean, I'm in that boat. I have plans for my children to be out of my house. Absolutely. Yeah. But at the same time, I know that I have to rethink that strategy if my child comes to me and says, hey, I want to start something. Yeah. Okay, well, come here. Don't spend your money on, an apartment. Don't spend your money on all these other things that will ultimately help you get to that next stage. Yeah. Now, and I will say, you know your children. If that person, if your child is blowing smoke or if they're really serious about it. Exactly. But we have to be willing to do things like that. And we've got to, we have to go back to that family position that you were talking about. Yeah. And I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to we've lost the sense of family. I think it's just different. I think I should clarify, community, not family. Okay. I think family, we're probably a little bit closer family, but we don't have a sense of community. Right. And so, and I agree with that as well. So I don't know, man. It's tough. Delicate, man. It's definitely delicate. Where are we at? Are we getting close to? Oh yeah, we're getting close to time here. But it's definitely a delicate situation. But at the end of the day, it's gonna take a full mental shift, and I don't know if we in the Black community have it. It's gonna, I don't mind giving up for the greater good of my community if I knew other people were going to do it, right? It's like that, you've seen that, heard that the prisoner dilemma thing? You ever heard of that scenario? It's like you got two prisoners, right? You tell one prisoner, hey, if you snitch, then you won't serve any time. If you do snitch, or if you don't snitch, you're going to serve 20 years, right? And then they tell the other prisoner, well, if they don't snitch and you don't snitch, then no one serves any time. But if you snitch, or if you don't snitch and he doesn't, and he snitches, he gets no time, you get 20 years or something to that effect, right? So it's that where I don't know what you're going to do. And do I cover my ass and I snitch and then we both get time? Or do I cover my ass and I don't say anything and hopefully you don't say anything, so that way we both get out free, right? And that's how it is in a Black community. Is I think you have enough Black people willing to say, I don't need to make $200,000 a year, right? I'll make 50 if it meant that everyone was willing to make 50 and make this thing work. And I think that's the disconnect. We don't have that because I don't have faith. Not that I'm making $200,000 a year. Don't let anybody count my pockets coming from me for nothing. Right? But I will say that, I don't have the faith enough in my community that if I said, all right, Eugene, I'm gonna go out there and start a business, and I know I got my resources, my intellectual resources, I got my innovative resources, my business resources around, but I'm gonna make 35 grand a year. But I know everybody's gonna eat if we do that. I don't mind. I would be up for doing that,
but I don't trust my community to do that with me. And that's where I think that at the end of the day, that's where we're going to struggle until we turn that tide. And that can be innovation business. That also means socially. It also means economically. It also means politically. We don't have each other's backs on any of those fronts. And it's also individualistic. And that's why we can't get anywhere. We are crabs in the barrel by definition all day long. No way that they're going to have that and I can't have it. Mm-hmm. Why can't the one crab get out and help pull the rest of us out, right? That's kind of almost what we're waiting on. But that one crab that's up there, you know, your Diddy's, your Jay-Z's, your Kanye's are like, shit, y'all niggas still in water. I mean, I'm still in the pot, but at the end of the day, I ain't touching the water, right? It's that you what did Jay-Z in that song? You still a nigga. At the end of the day, you just holding on to the top of the pot while the rest of us in the water, but you still getting steamed at the end of the day, right? So we gotta get out the damn pot, and we gotta get everybody else out the pot with us. But at the end of the day, we don't want to do it.
Yeah. So we gotta go with the Tyler Perry model. You know, people give Tyler Perry a lot of hell.
I will always be a Tyler Perry fan. His acting, the actors suck, but I love his model. I love it.
Yep. So no.
Oh well.
I think that's a good point. And it's sad. And hopefully we get to a better place. Yeah. But it's gonna have to be. I mean, we're gonna have to rethink things.
Yeah.
You know. And you know, we got to stop blaming the government. You know, we just have to do it.
Yeah. Because I mean, the government has its role. We know that. We know that there's systematic racism out there. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that we can control that we don't. And I think that's the piece that we're missing.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and we've talked about it over and over again. If you had that sense of community, like you're stating, you would have real power when it came to the political market.
Yeah.
You would be able to hire your school board. You would be able to hire your sheriff. You'd be able to hire your mayors, all these things, because everyone would be in one accord, right? Once again, LGBTQ, all the alphabet folks, they're on one accord. If there's a person who hates gays but loves lesbians, you know, nobody's on. No, the whole community is against it.
Yeah.
Right. We're not there. We're not at that point. And so I think this was a good kind of 3-episode series that really kind of looked at the way that we're, you know, how we react as a community.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, man. Yeah.
I seen a story the other day. It was white family. They bought, I don't know, like 15 acres in Texas somewhere where all the housing prices are skyrocketing. So they went and pulled their money, bought 15 acres of land, and they're putting like 7 houses on it, right? All different parts of the family. And it's all one builder. So they're getting one hell of a rate for doing it. One builder, but one house is going to be finished before that house is finished. And I bring that up to say is I just feel like if we, and not necessarily you and I, but we as Black people, if we were to do something like that, pool our money, build a community, we would be so upset with, well, why their house get to get built first? Or why does their house look like this, but mine looks like this? Well, nigga, you designed it. Shit, that's why it looks like that. But we would be so concerned about why her house is built first and mine's last, or why her yard's shaped like that and this one's shaped like that. I think that's the part that I think that we would struggle with. We wouldn't be able to do something like that. Even though you buy 10 acres of land, you don't have to go and get it parceled out because you own the land. So you don't have to, you pay one property tax on the one piece of land. You get all the houses because it's one, you get one address, right? So all the houses are considered one piece of property. So you buy you pay property tax on just the one, you split it up between your 7, like that's how you save money, and that's how you stick it to the man, right? But
that, you know, that was going to be my point with the $35,000 that you were talking about. $35,000, on the surface, depending on where you are, isn't a lot of money. But if there's 7 people in your house that are making $35,000, then you have a great household income at that point in time.
Yep.
But we have to be able to, you know, one, divide it up evenly, you know, or not necessarily divide it up evenly, but we have to be able to pool our money for the things that we need as a community. Yeah. Right. And so, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, economies and things along those lines. And I think there is what's a good way of saying it? I think there's a lot of misinformation, right? You know, a market economy works for a great big nation like the United States. Market economy probably doesn't work well within your walls, right? You're probably going to want something that's more of a, I wouldn't say communist, but more of a socialized type of economy within your 4 walls, right? Right, you know, where you can go out and make your money, but you know, you put your money together in order to do the things that the household needs. That's what it is. You know, it can't be. It can be competition, but I mean, I think that makes it very difficult to live with people. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer, Sway. I don't know.
So. Me neither. But I think that's a good point. We're at a stopping point. We're at our time, so we're not rambling on. Good discussion. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week now. We have something to lead into.
What? Maybe we'll hopefully we'll have some good things that happen this weekend.
I hope so, Lord.
We can talk about some. What that looks like.
Hopefully we'll have some. Man, come on, man. I hope so, Lord. We can talk.
Why do I hear everything, man? This is really awkward, man.
Come on, man.
All right, man. I'm gonna end it.
All right. Bye.
Come on, man. I don't even know how to stop it, man. All right, man. I'm gonna end it.
All right. Bye.